Good evening, everyone. Welcome from Stick Rehab Foundation, and I'm Harshali Kharche. I'm the director and the founder of the Stick Rehab Foundation. Very nice to see you all. As you know, SNCC is Special Needs Integration Center, and we are here to rehabilitation, empowerment, health, advocacy, and belief. So our we know now our vision is to empower parents of children with special needs by ensuring their peace of mind, satisfaction, positivity with respect to their child's overall development. So here our motto is to empower parents and to give them various information about various things like financial, mental health, and advocacy, different beliefs, and everything. So to uh, here we are developing their perspective towards the various things. So in today we have Mr. Jitendra Solanki with us for the financial and estate planning webinar series. We are going to talk about 10-point checklist to know how much you are prepared, like how much you are prepared to for starting financial planning. So you know at what stage you are. So after that, you can go ahead with your planning with your consultant. So I'll just introduce in a brief Mr. Jitendra Solanki. He is the founder of Plan Special Needs, SCBI Registered Investment Advisor, CFP CTF, and founder and director of Special Needs Estate Planner Private Limited. I welcome you, sir, and I'll hand it over to you for further session.
Thank you, Ashla. Okay, let me. You can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, all of you. We have been doing these webinars specifically for taking up topics which are very important, and not only talking, in broad sense of how you prepare, for your child future, but also through some questions where which should be answered by the parent themselves to know that how much you are prepared for your child future. Now when I say how much you are prepared for your child future, it means, it tells you that at what life stage you are at that particular life stage, what needs to be done, what are the areas which are still unplanned, which you need to address in the future. That's the main objective of this webinar. So what we have done is, we have designed this 10-point checklist, or I would say, 10 questions which should be answered by the parent. The parent should look at answering these questions, which will help them to prepare for the future. I won't go into my introduction. We have been doing these webinars, and I think all of you would be aware about my credentials. But let me come to the first question, or the first point, uh, and it's about disability. Now, this young parent probably would find it difficult to understand. So you need time to understand this. But yes, as a parent, when you look at for the future, then as a parent, or as a caregiver, uh, somebody who's taking care of the special child, would need to understand the child disability and its prognosis. So how much you know about it, and if you know about it, can you describe it in your words? So that's important. And these questions largely parents or families we have been discussing with, or financial planning we have been doing for. So we generally ask these questions, and we ask the parents to write down this, so that they also know how much they understand from what they have gone through in the last so many years. And as I said before, for young parents it would be a really a start. So it's still time where they will understand about the disability. But when you are looking at preparing for the future, this is also one of the area where parents have to be aware of. We are not saying you should be, a medical professional, but you should be aware of about your child disability. Simply put, because when you would be looking at somebody else to care for your child future, then how much they are aware of and how much they can care, if you have an understanding, probably you would be able to answer, or you would be able to judge that. So how much you know about your child disability, and can you describe it in your words? If you can write it down, what exactly it is and how it is going to shape up in the future, then probably you would have understood it really good. So that's the first checklist, I would say, rather than a question. The second is, are you and your family members aware about the disability and its prognosis? So it's not about you, but your family members too. So when I say family members, the sibling, both the spouses, and there would be other family members who would be uh, involved in the child care. So are they aware about the disability and its prognosis? If no, so yes, very well. If no, then have you planned to make them aware? What are you doing to ensure that the family members apart from you who would be involved in the child care are made aware of about your child disability? And that's very important, because uh, when you are looking at some other family members to take care of your child for lifelong, you do not know at what life stage it happens. It can be when the child is minor, it can be when the child is adult, or it can be when the child is later stage of life. Whatever life stage your family members take care of your child or even interact with your child, a basic understanding of the disability and prognosis helps you also to get that confidence that yes, somebody whom you are appointing is very well aware of about your child requirement, and the communication also is stronger. So it's not only you, but your family members also, how much they are aware about the disability and its prognosis. Are you aware about life expectancy of your child? Now, this is straightforward. I am asking a question, but yes, in a general scenario, we do not look at it from this angle. But an understanding of this is required, and like most of us, most of us have an feeling of okay, and generally we always talk with each other. Okay, this is my life expectancy, and this is the age I want to live, or probably seeing the scenarios or seeing in the past, and this is what the life expectancy is. Now, why this is important is because when you will be doing most of the calculating those requirements, or some of the goals you would be planning for. Now whenever you plan a retirement goal, or whenever you plan any other goal, life expectancy is assumed in a similar manner. When you are planning for your child, you would have to assume a certain life expectancy. Now it's very difficult for a parent to identify the life expectancy, but some indication is always given by medical professionals or other professionals. So how much you are aware of, and that's important to answer. Do you understand your child life stages? How much you understand about your child life stages? What life stages will come in the future? At what life stage you are? So how much you understand, or have you you know uh, done an effort to understand about the life stages of your child? Now in the normal course we know that okay, this is how the the life of child would be. But what are those life stages? Do you know what are the transitional phases you will have to address in your child life stages? Like relocation, minority to adult, and others. So there are many life stages which you will pass through, and each of these life stages there is a transitional phase. So there is a transitional phase when the child moves from minority to adult. There is a transitional phase when you relocate to another city. There is a transitional phase when the child moves from resident home residence to a residential care. So do you know what are these transitional phases and how you need to address them? Now this can happen when you understand your child life stages, what life stages are there in your child life, and at each life stages, what can be the planning point for you. So just to give you a life stages, and this is what I was talking about, that when the child is minor there is a stage 2 when the child is an adult living at home. Stage 3 is external living environment. Stage 4 is first parent death, and stage 5 is second parent death. Now at each of these life stages, you can see there is a element of planning, or issues which are addressed. So when the child is in minority phase, then diagnosis happens. Early intervention you look at, there are counseling, there are therapies, special education if it is there, special assessment if it is there. So during this phase you are more involved in these elements. But when the child moves from a minority to an adult phase, then there is a change in service support. The guardianship issue will come in, the residential needs will need to be identified. In similar manner, at each life stage, there would be some element of planning or some element of issues, financial, legal, or personal, which will come in front of you, which needs to be addressed. And that's why uh, I asked this question, that how much do you understand about these life stages? Because if you as a parent understand about these, that these are the life stages, then probably you know, or you have an awareness that what are the issues which are coming up in the future to address. The fifth checklist is, can you list down monthly expenses for your child care, including medical home care? Why this question is because you are going to identify a corpus which you require for your child care. And unless and until you know what is the monthly expense for your child care, it's very difficult to identify any kind of monetary requirements for your child. And that's why it's important that you manage your special child expenses separately. And that's why this checklist comes in, that can you list down monthly expenses for child care, only child care expenses. If you can list down, that means you are following it, you know very well. If you cannot list down, then probably it might be the time that you start managing it separately. Are you encouraging your child to participate in activities that will motivate him, or her, or will enhance his confidence to live independently? Now all of us wants our child to be independent, but that may not be the stage. But there are some skills which are which your child develops. So how as a parent we are encouraging a child to participate in activities that will really motivate them, or they will enhance its confidence to independently. Because when you are looking for a lifelong care, the more independent your child is, probably the lesser effort would be from your side to identify a good residential care, or home, or probably any other residential living. So how much we are encouraging, most of the cases all parents do. But yes, this is a checklist to identify that how you are preparing for the future. Because specifically in cases where the child has to shift to a residential care, then if the child is not able to live independently, probably it's a very difficult situation. The adaptability would be very difficult, and for the child to adapt to that situation, this is a primary factor. And that's why this is also one of the checklist to know yourself, that how you are preparing for the future. Have you identified any person who will take daily care of the child? not, but have you identified any person who will look after financial affairs of your child when you are not there? Now, it can be different persons, it can be the same persons, but the real question is that have you identified any person? If yes, well, good enough. If no, then have you made any alternate provisions for this situation? It's important because if you are not thinking on this line, there need to be an alternate provision, because if the situation arises, you cannot suddenly go and find someone, or that they will take care of the child. So, and that's why this is one of the important checklist, I would say, because identifying a person whom you have a faith, who understand your child requirement, who can manage financial the skills he has. So all these you have to judge and you have to identify. Now if you are not done this, then have you thought about alternate provisions for if the situation arises? How will the future guardian understand about your child requirement? Is there any written document to refer to? So put simply, you have appointed a future guardian for your child. Now he may or may not understand about your child requirement. How would you help him to understand that these are my child requirement? This is how he should be taken care of. These are the things which hasn't worked for, and so you should not repeat those situations. Generally, I ask this question that when you are leaving your child probably for say 48 hours, then you give some instruction to the person that this is how the care should be done. But if you are identifying somebody for lifelong care, verbal instruction will not work. So is there any written document which they can refer to understand any part of your child care which probably they are not able to address? Have you shared your vision for your child with future guardian, caregiver, trustees, so that their thoughts are in line with your vision? It's very important that when persons you are identifying for your child care share the same thoughts of what thoughts you have for your child. So have you shared your vision for your child with future guardian trustees? If yes, you have done it when it was last updated. So it's not a one-time exercise, where you just share it and leave it, but it needs to be updated. And so even if you have done this, the question comes in that when it was last updated, especially the document about your child requirements. Then, have you insured yourself enough to secure future caregiving survivors from expenses of your child care? Now, most of the families won't have enough assets or accumulated where they can manage all the expenses of child care. So what would happen in a situation where the next guardian or the caregiver need expenses, need money, for the child care expenses? If you are not providing, or if your assets are not sufficient enough, have you insured yourself? Have you taken an insurance which will ensure that funds are always available? It can fill that gap and it can provide the necessary money which is required by the caregivers, by the survivors, to take care of your child expenses. Have you planned for your child future in case of own incapacity? So for example, if you are incapacitated due to health reason or for any other reason, then who will plan for your child future? Who will take care of your child expenses? How will the finances would be managed? So have you thought about that situation? And I think last 2 years, probably these thoughts would have come in mind of every parents. Have you started investment for your child which will provide for his lifelong care? So if you are a young parent, or probably your child is still in minority, well below 10 years of age, so have you started investing your money? Have you started those savings which will ensure that the funds are available for your child lifelong care? 10th, have you identified the legacy you want to leave for your child with special need and other family members? So have you done it? Have you identified what legacy you want to leave? Now, when I say a legacy, that means how much money, movable properties, immovable property, whatever you want to leave for your child, have you identified that this is what I would leave for the child? And there are other family members also. So as a working member, probably your spouse, your special child, and the child with the siblings. So all the legacy for all. So have you identified who will get what from your legacy or what you have built up in so many years? Have you established proper will and trust to safeguard the future of your special need child? Surely the thoughts are there. The thoughts are there that these have to be done. But have you taken that first step? Have you gone and acted upon it? And that's important. And even if you have prepared the will and have formed the trust, is trust endowed with enough money so that the trust corpus does not fall short for meeting your child requirement? It's not only the formation of a trust, but the trust needs money, the money which can take care of your child expenses for lifelong. So have you identified that how this trust is going to be funded with the kind of money it requires, be it from your asset, be it from life insurance? So have you done that? Let me give you a bonus point. So where will your child live? And this is the most important question. So have you identified the right residential options for your child? If not, then have you made any alternate provision? So this question revolves throughout the parent's life, and but answering it is very important. And a lot of developments have been done in this uh, space. But I think this question needs to be answered and needs to be looked at one of the checklists that you should have, and you should prepare for well ahead in time, so that, and simply because the child will also need time if he's shifting from one city to another, or probably to a residential care home. So any other identified, or any other option you have identified, and that's why this question answer of this question is important. So you can find these resources on our website planspecialneed.com. So though I have spoke about 10 questions, there is a 25 questions self-assessment on our website, which will involve questions from other areas also, which are important to answer, and which will help you to actually know that how whether you are well prepared for the future or not. So you can visit our website and take this 25 question self assessment. There is an online calculator for identifying that monetary requirements, how much money the trust needs, how much money the corpus should be the funded in the trust, and how much money you require for your child future. There is a letter of intent e-course. So the document which you should be sharing with your with future guardian trustees and any other family member who is involved in the child care is a letter of intent. And there is an e-course which we have done. There are 2-minute tips which every Friday we send videos with a 2-minute tip to help you to know that these are the areas you have to plan for. And there is a blog we are running where we write articles regarding this. So these are the resources I have spoken about. These resources will help you to probably answer some of these questions, if not all of them. So this is all about 10-point checklist. There would be more, as I said. You can take the 25 question which which specifically go deep into the areas there should be planned for. But I think this 10-point checklist is very, very important, and answering to these questions which I spoken. And as I said, there would be more questions to answer, but these are the basic questions which every parent should look and answer to know very well that what life stage you stand today and what are the areas you need to plan for the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I mean, I should say that it's an eye opener for must be for everybody कि कहाँ से शुरू करना है अभी. अगर ये सब आंसर नहीं किया है ऑलरेडी तो अभी टाइम आ गया है कि we should start doing it, because I can see for myself, as Dr. Ashok said, looks scary. Most questions do not have answers. That's right. I must say, and this is, yeah, really great. Yes, eye opener for us. Parents, if you have any questions, you can come up with questions on this. हाँ रश्मि आ रही है. Yes, you can go ahead, Rashmi aunty.
This is not about financial. I just want to add something that if
Sure.
you think of a residential care for your child, you have to prepare the child beforehand. You cannot just dump him or her. So you start at a time, maybe when he's 14, 15, 16, whenever you think is the right time. If you start, when I started at the age of 40, it was impossible because the regimented structure, he could not manage that. I wonder if I said something that everybody's understood.
Yes, it's very important to prepare your child, and yeah, very rightly said.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I mean, yes, you cannot just go one day and go, because our child has so much anxiety even going out, or if we are doing something new.
Yes.
So we have to prepare him for, I mean, beforehand we use social stories and all in childhood. So why not to prepare them ahead for this residential facility? Very rightly said, Manti.
And as far as possible, try
Yeah.
to stay near the facility so that
Yes.
you can supervise a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I do agree. I do agree with you, Rashmi ma'am. Because this decision of shifting a child to a residential care, it's not a one day, it's not a 1 year, it's not a 2 year affair. We are experiencing it. Many families are shifting along with the child, taking of time, to make the child comfortable. The adaptability does not come in 1 day, 1 year, or 2 year. It might take a longer time. You do not know whether your child would be really adapt to that situation. Sometimes some parents have seen that the child does not adapt to that situation and they have to revert it back to an old situation. Okay. So yes, it needs a well thought out preparation beforehand, that how will and that's what the question I asked, that how will you make him independent enough so that he can adapt to any situation with where you want to be for him.
Especially if he has medical complications.
Yes, I do.
It becomes even more necessary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie. Any other questions, parents? I think you have answered in the chat box, like, 1 minute. Which site has 25? You have posted it, right? It's in the chat box, so you can go through this site. And how do we identify the legal guardian for the child with nuclear families in present time?
Okay, so nuclear families, yes, that's the challenge. There are some legal consideration when you are identifying a legal guardian, but it's not that that you cannot identify anybody else apart from the family member. So as a parent, if you find someone, you can appoint a legal guardian. So you should take a help, from a legal professionals also on this aspect. Now, identifying the legal guardian, it's very difficult question to answer, because for a nuclear family, apart from spouses, for the child, identifying an individual might be a difficult. Though you have to identify an individual in the current scenario, they do not have a legal support system as such in India, which can fulfill the need of legal guardian. Though there are other options also where the NGOs or residential care can also take the legal guardianship, but that has not still been, I haven't seen it yet. So I think probably we'll see some development in this space, but you still can identify somebody who can and who understand your child requirement, and who can probably fit into the person you are looking for. And plus the structure, the framework you create. See, the most challenge with the legal guardian is that when you want to endow him with all the responsibilities, financial also, personal also, and other responsibility also, there it's very difficult to identify such a person. And that's why this framework of forming a trust, a residential home or any other services, and then there is a legal guardian. So when you have these framework, you have to limit down the legal guardian responsibilities, so that anybody else beyond your family members can take that job, or can take that legal guardianship. So it's so you have to draw a framework in the right context. So when you are identifying a legal guardian, you should uh, you know go with the thought that he's not the person who's going to take care of everything, about your child, about his financials, about everything. Yes, he would take some part of child care, he would be handling it, maybe. So if your child is in residential care, home, for example, the legal guardian is not going to manage day-to-day affairs, but still he will interact with the child on a frequent basis and would be a party to a decision making. And the financial, the trust, can take care of. So that way, the framework you require, not the identification of a person who can manage everything, for your child. So I think that is important. Now if you go with that framework, probably identification of legal guardian becomes a bit easier, because you're looking with a person with some limited roles for your child.
Yes, thank you, sir. Next question is, what is the best LIC policy for disabled child, 12 years kid?
Which is the best medical policy available for special kids 12-year-old in market that can continue as child moves into adulthood and covers for his medical expenses later?
Yeah.
So based on the disability, now there are health insurance which are coming up. So for autism, there are companies like Star Health, Religare, United India, and other which are covering. For Down syndrome also, there are health insurance covering. And plus now with new guidelines, all health insurance companies have to cover disabilities. So I think you will see from most of the insurance companies giving a coverage for for the special child. So I think this I do not know the disability, it's not being mentioned, but you will now get a health insurance from most of the companies, and the same health insurance can be continued. It's a yearly renewal policy, so that can continue to till your child reaches to adulthood and then later on.
Okay, thank you. So I think we have don't have any question in chat box. Anybody wants to ask, and they can unmute. They can raise their hands and unmute themselves. Any questions? No.
Yeah, I'll share. Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Yes, Arti.
Yeah, ma'am. I just thought that this is a series of Zoom sessions, so which are being recorded and which are available for listening. So, sir, ma'am, where can I find the other lectures? Because I didn't attend all. So this is the first time attending.
Okay, all are uploaded on Sneak Rehab Foundation YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find it. You can just type it out, Sneak Rehab Foundation. You will get our channel. So we are uploading all those sessions there. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell me the name of
Thank
the
you.
channel, ma'am? Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, Sudha ma'am.
Yes, dear. Can you tell me the name of the channel?
Sneak Rehab Foundation. SNIC Rehab Foundation. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I think also I'm always thinking of this solution. Like if all the parents of the autistic children, we unite together and make a good residential home, and some but turn wise, if the parents are in charge, because we are all on the same boat and we understand the feelings of each parent. being a parent of an autistic child is not easy. So if we can, think over of this model and we start building the infrastructure, like it's to take this matter forward, because we cannot depend on the third party. How will they treat the child? Like we don't feel secured.
Oh, okay,
What
I'll
do you
answer
think?
that. I'll answer that. So one, these kind of models are now, there in India. So there are a lot of parents group who have formed a residential care for their home. So there are 3-4 models, which work for a special child. Now all these 3-4 models are currently being practiced in India. So there is a model where, the parents have formed a society themselves, for special children family. The service providers is from outside who's providing the services. Now there is a model where the complete residential care home is set up, and all the services are within that. Then there is a model of assisted living. So there are more different models which are being practiced in India now. I don't say all of them suits all requirement, but what you said, uh, yes, it's a it's a concern, but I don't think that only parents forming a group and then forming a residential care will answer that. I think it's a kind of framework also you develop even in a residential care. If you shift to a child to a residential care, then probably the framework you develop in and around the child, the support system you develop in and around the child, that will bring a security to your child future. So because it's not just about the so for example, the stakeholders. So residential care is there, the private trust is there, the legal guardian is there, then there are other stakeholders. So how do you involve all of them, under what kind of a system is important, rather than just going with this option where parents coming together. This option is very well being practiced in India now. A lot of north, south, east, west, a lot of parents are coming together and forming this. But I think it's a framework which will help you, to give you security to the child future.
Yes, sir. Very well said.
Thank you.
Actually,
Well said. Thank you very much, sir.
yes. We have many residential care and many parents group we have. Those are working on this already. I mean, it is a nice thing initiated of many by many parents also. Yes. Somebody is asking, can you name some good residential homes for special child is in North India? We have the list. If you are part of SNCC group, please ask there. I'll post it in the group. Anyone else want to say something?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, ma'am and Solanki sir.
Yeah.
So actually that I want to know whether is there any assisted living space in Hyderabad, in and around Hyderabad, for the IDD children and parents.
I think that list is there with SNCC, all the assisted living plus residential care homes which are there in India across the country. That list is there already with SNCC. So you can have that list and probably you can look at what all options are available in Hyderabad.
Autism ashram is there, sir, in Hyderabad.
Yes. In Hyderabad, the autism ashram is there. I mean, there are many residential care we have, and on Facebook we have one group, not SNCC, but Nina Wag ma'am is heading that group. She made that list, and we have it. So we, if you want it, we can post it in a group. That would be helpful for everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
Please try to post it, ma'am. That again I can see it. Thank you.
If you are in SNCC group, you will get it. Otherwise, please do ping me personally.
Yes. I am in that SNCC second group, I think.
Okay.
It is there.
Okay.
So then, Solanki sir,
Yeah.
is the LIC not offering any policy for the IDD children which can secure their future,
Sir, let's
especially, sir?
okay, let's accept it. There is no single product which can provide that security.
Sir.
Not even in India, in globally also,
Okay,
no
sir.
single product can do that. Okay, you
Yes.
will always have to look for a combination of avenues. Yes,
Uh-huh.
LIC used to run two products which provided an option for saving plus getting an annuity for your child. But
Yes, sir.
every product has its limitations. Now the
Sir.
product, the insurance policies have a limitation of how much premium you can pay. Now suppose your child requires an income of 50,000 per month. Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
for that you have to save the kind of product which were there. You would have to save a 75,000 lakh of rupees annually as a premium.
Yes,
Now
yes.
can you really afford that? So every
No.
product has its own limit,
Yes,
and
yes.
that's why you have to, if you want to maximize your resources, you will have to look at different avenues. There are some products by LIC which are being developed in a different format. Like today you have an annuity product from LIC. Okay, now it's an
Sure.
annuity product, so when you buy an annuity with that product as a parent, the annuity is also available to special child after your lifetime. Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
those kind of product will come in, but they will not meet your complete requirement. They can be part of your requirement. Okay,
Yes.
you will
Yes.
always have to look at other avenues to fulfill your requirement for your child.
Complete requirements. Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, we have one more question in chat box. Can a trust be an organization like a bank instead of a group of individuals?
I am not fully understood that question.
Yeah.
So can you unmute and ask that question?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir. My name is Sujata,
Yeah.
and yeah, I I have a child who's in the spectrum, and I basically wanted to understand that, uh, as I understand it, trust is a group of individuals
Yes.
that you form for a child. So what I wanted to
Yes.
know was, can it be like, can the financial matters of the child, etc., can be taken care? Does a bank offers services like this, where it's not an a legal guardian is something who can take care, as you said, as the overall be in the scoop of things, how to take care of, be the overall person who can take care of the decisions involved. So for example, if eventually if I send a child to a residential home, etc., or so can the financial matters be taken care by a bank or any other organization instead of a group of individuals? That is what I wanted to understand.
Okay. So, answer to your question is first on legal guardian. Now, under the law, a legal guard, when you appoint somebody a legal guardian, he or she can manage both personal affair and financial affairs of your child. If you haven't formed a trust, and if the assets are in the name of the child, so whatever financial assets are there in the name of the child, the legal guardian would be the person who would be managing it. Those assets. Okay, so the trust would manage only those assets which are there in the trust, but assets which are there in the name of the child, the legal guardian is the person who will be managing them. So a legal guardian by role can manage both personal and financial affairs. What I spoke about was limiting that role, so that everything does not fall on the legal guardian, and you can identify somebody. It becomes easier to identify a person with a limited role then identifying a person who has all the capabilities, and you want to give him financials also, and personal affairs also. So first is that. Now second, a trust itself is a framework where it's an arrangement between your three parties. Okay, now alternative to that, any organization which can take care of your child affairs, they will only be able to do only if they are appointed as a legal guardian. Otherwise, a company or a corporate cannot do so under the law. Okay, but a trust can do it, because a trust does not own any of these assets, and the structure in the law, the way trust is defined, it's an arrangement between three parties, between you, the trustees, and the beneficiary. Now the trust does not own any asset, the trustees does not own any assets. All the assets are owned by you, or all the assets are there for the benefit of the beneficiary. Only this arrangement can manage the financial for your child, because your child has to derive that benefit. If an organization is appointed, it will be appointed as a legal guardian. Now that provision is there in the National Trust Act, where an NGO can be appointed as a legal guardian. Though I haven't seen any NGO taking up that responsibility, but those kind of organization can take care. But organization like bank or a private limited company, no, they cannot manage these affairs for an individual. I
Thank you,
hope
sir.
that answers your question.
Yeah. I basically wanted to understand that then in that case, can a trust be given the responsibility of being a legal guardian? I mean, have I understood it correctly? Or maybe I'm
Trust, no, a trust. See, a trust is not an entity in itself. As I said, it's an arrangement. You are a settler, you are a parent, you are appointed group of people to manage the certain assets and give that benefit to the child. Okay.
okay.
Now, because of this arrangement, a trust cannot be appointed as a legal guardian as such. Okay. In the law, by law, legal guardian, you can appoint an individual or any organization which is registered with National Trust. Okay. Otherwise, a trust cannot be a legal guardian, but to certain extent, they can still manage the affairs. Okay. So they can still look after your child. They can still be party to decision making. So when a trust is managing a financial affairs, surely they are party to the decision making, even to certain extent in the the care for the child. They won't be responsible, but they would be party to all those decision making.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I just missed one question from Shishir uncle, that by this time, I believe there must be a template draft of will and trust which parents can copy and use. Is it available anywhere?
So trust deed, or a will, see, every family would have unique situation. To certain extent, a template can is available, not specifically to special children families, but a template of will is available on the Google. If you find, they will, most of the templates are available for the will document. Even trust deed also, you will find a sample trust deed document available, but those document will specify only the details which is common to all the trust deed. Anything specification you want to have, you will have to add it. Okay, you will have to modify that, and that's where all the issue lies. You cannot copy and suddenly make your own will. No, I think you will have to modify it. You will have to have the provisions which you want, which may not be common with other family. So in to that extent, the template is there, but that's a very very standard template. A trust deed is where you would need a legal professional help, specifically because the provision you are creating in a trust deed, you are creating for, say, maybe 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years, and some legal professional to look from that angle 40 years or 30 years down the line, he has to be a real good expert. And that's why I say that trust deed cannot be just copied and you can form a trust. You should take a professional help, so that you are more secure that provision you are creating won't create any problem in the future for your child.
Okay, yes. I think we'll go for on the next question. Dr. Ashok Shah, you want to ask something or say something?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm not 100% sure, but one of the parents in one of the meetings had mentioned about few of the banks also act as a trustee, and they can be appointed. One of the bank I heard about is the Bank of Maharashtra. Second, probably Kotak Bank. My question is like, if they are allowed, and what is the difference between the private trustee we appoint, professional trustees, one corporate people become a trustee, and the bank as a trustee?
Okay. See, first of all, bank or corporate, they both are in the same line. A bank is also a corporate. So when you talk about a corporate professional trustee, either it can be a bank or it's a private limited company like our company, Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited. So it's a corporate trustee you are appointing. Okay. And all of them are in the same category. Now, yes, there are trustees like we started, Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited, having services of trustees for special child trust. There are other companies also who are offering these services, and some of the banks, may be doing it. But largely, I know, quite a few banks who used to have these services, they, stopped giving trusteeship services. Some of the banks would be, there. But one of the big challenges, with banks or large professional trusteeship services is, there is a certain criteria of a minimum corpus, they want in the trust to manage the affairs. So that may be a challenge. But as far as corporate trustee is concerned, yes, you have these services available. And be it an SNEP or be it any other company or bank, yes. So so when you appoint a professional trustee, so surely you get an added advantage that that somebody is there who knows how the trust is going to be managed, and the trust affairs, managing trust affairs becomes much easier. Largely a combination of family member, plus a residential care or any friends or in a professional trustee. These kind of combinations, really work well.
Just adding to that question about the corporate trust or trustees, is there any body where they are supposed to be registered, or somebody can become a corporate trustee of their own with their own qualification? Second thing is, if there is like other trustee feel that few of the corporate trustee may not be functioning as required, where do they complain about that?
So one is, all of these are corporate bodies, so you can always complain to registrar of companies if they are not functioning well. Plus you always have an option of removing the trustees. Okay, so you can always remove a trustee. So tomorrow, if corporate trustee is not working well, you can remove the corporate trustee. And the first question you asked is where they have to register. There is no body for trustees of corporate trustee. An individual can also be a trustee, so there is no body for that. A corporate would be registered as a, if it's a private limited, it will register as a corporate body under registrar of companies. So they have certain guidelines to follow as as a registered entity. So those are the guidelines there. But moreover, as I said, it's a combination of the trustees, which where you can find more security. And before choosing a professional trustee, so you have to do your own homework, to ensure that the right kind of trustees are appointed. But there is no entity who are monitoring trustees. So registrar of companies, through an act, and plus they are a body who are monitoring all the companies. But no body is there who's monitoring a trustee as such. A trustee can be anybody, and I as an individual can also be a trustee, and you as a parent can be a trustee in another trust, as a parent. And so nobody is monitoring you as a trustee. It's just that you are, it's a legal responsibility. So any misconduct, you will be held legally, liable for that by the court, and you can be penalized for that by the Indian court. So that's the thing with the trustee. But otherwise, there is no monitoring authority as such who is monitoring them on a daily basis or on a frequent basis.
But to choose for corporate trustees, to choose the corporate trustee, is there any checklist, the things that we need to check about the corporate part? If they are doing this thing, how many they are doing, are they doing for the special need kids? Many of the corporate trustees are looking after the corporate companies. So are there any legal documents that we need to check with those companies?
I don't think so. Legal document apart from ROC, registration, you won't find any other legal document. As I said, to offer trusteeship services, there is no separate legal document which is required. But you need to have your own checklist, in the sense ki how much they understand about your special child requirement, and to what extent they can, they will be interested to take, demand of large corpus in the trust and other things, the fee structure. So all these things have to be discussed in detail. So see, no corporate trustee is, good or bad. It should meet your requirement. So, for identifying a corporate trustee, so you can prepare on own checklist. This is what you want. Okay. Based on that, you can interview the corporate trustees. So like we started corporate trusteeship, only for special child trust. So we are very clear that we will be managing trust only special child trust. We won't be managing any other trust. Largely the trusteeship services which other companies offer, so they are managing both, a general trust also, a special child trust also. They would be having an experience in managing trust affairs, right? So it all depends on what is the objective of the company, and I think through some certain questions when you are interacting with them, you will be able to judge, to what extent their interest is and whether that is meeting your requirement or not.
So you mean to say like Forum for Autism, Action for Autism, or SNEAK, they can form a corporate trustee?
Hey sir, corporate trusteeship, so they are a charitable organization. They won't be offering any corporate trustee. The corporate trustee, like, we formed a private limited company. Through that, we are offering a trusteeship services. Anybody who wants to, but as I said, for a trustee, you do not have any minimum requirement. I can go along as an individual and offer a trusteeship services. I can be trustee in most of the trust. Now, you as a parent, you can be trustee in other parent trust. So nobody is stopping you. So there is no criteria for who can be trustee. Anybody can become a trustee. Okay, to an extent that they understand that it's a legal responsibility. Companies offer trusteeship services, probably because they have an experience and they are doing it, for so many years, or probably they have a certain objective. So I individual can act as a trustee. I'm not going to be a corporate trustee. Now I'm going to be as an individual trustee. A corporate trustee would be a company appointed as a trustee. So when I say Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited, so Ashok Shah Family Trust appoints Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited as one of the trustees in their trust. Now SNEP will appoint a representative who will be there, managing the trust affairs. Because I can have 100 other trusts also where I would be a trustee and I would have representative in each of the trusts. So corporate will always have a representative in your trust, but largely whatever agreement the trust is going to do with the corporate.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question we have in chat box: trust is better or power of attorney of child has if child has little sense of legal activities?
Both are different, different document. Power attorney is not a very, very powerful tool. I won't advise, using power attorney in that case. I mean, if you are giving, if the child has a little sense of legal activity, then power attorney you would give to somebody else, to manage the child affairs. So like child document now, but power attorney the child cannot give. Only the person who is capable of contract can give a power attorney to anybody else. So I can give power attorney to anybody else, in the family or my friend to manage my affairs. But power attorneys generally work only to an extent where I am in a sound mind. The moment I am incapacitated due to any reasons, okay, mentally incapacitated, the power attorney will be revoked. Legally it will be revoked. So power attorney is not a very, very powerful tool. It can be utilized in certain matters. So there is no trust versus power attorney. I don't think that question arises. A trust has got a very different objective, and trust will continue irrespective of what is the family situation. It keep on continue the child managing affairs. Yes, you can have a condition that if the child reaches to a certain situation, like he can manage the affairs, the trust can be dissolved and everything that the child can manage. But power attorney, the child will give to somebody else. Okay, you can't give a power attorney of child assets to somebody else. It's the principal who give power attorney to somebody else. Okay, so so power attorney will not work in this situation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next, I would request Meena Waghela, ma'am. You can unmute and ask your question. You have raised your hand. Meena, ma'am, you there? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, please unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to ask, like, we currently don't live in India, but in case we want to come back in, like, say, a few years' time, and if we want to start planning, are there some options if we're not like Indian citizens at the moment?
Sorry,
Yeah, I couldn't hear you properly, Meena, ma'am. Can you ask louder? I mean, not able to hear properly.
Just hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me better now? Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
You can hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, like, currently we don't live in India, but if we want to return in, like, say, a few years' times, can we, like, start planning something, like, if we're not Indian citizens currently?
I think you can plan, for the future if you are looking at the situation. In fact, we have got many, NRIs who are not citizen, who are citizen in other countries. So they have started planning for this. We have even formed a trust in India. They are looking for options for residential care once they are returned to India. So you can start planning for that. I don't think you will face any issue in that.
And what's the best way to go about it?
Okay, what is the time frame you are thinking of? I mean, is it too long, or it's very near where you will be planning to shift to India?
It's not like quite close, like our son, he's 10 years now. So it's
Okay.
maybe another 10 years or something. It's not final, but just on, one option, we want to keep it open because all our family is still in India.
I think by next 10 years, there will be more development. So you will have a lot of options, as what is the situation today.
Yeah.
So you can look at, start exploring probably what are the options available in and around where, you are going to shift. You can understand what are the kind of options which are developing now. So that will give you an idea that by the time, you shift back to India, then what are the options available. Also, if you have assets in India, you can start planning for that asset, that how they will be utilized, for your child in India. So and even see, financial planning, or planning for the future starts whenever you think of. We have done financial planning for NRIs who want to return to India after 15 years, so probably their retirement phase. So you will have to plan from that perspective, that once you return to India, so whether those assets you accumulate now available and accumulate by that time, is that going to be enough, for your child and for yourself? Okay. So financial planning is you start today. As far as legal aspects are concerned, so those can be looked at, that what assets you own in India, and now you can consolidate those assets and start planning, for probably how they're going to be utilized for your child benefit after once you are back to India.
Yeah. So like, where can I get, guidance, like, because there are so many options and we are not like in India to like look after all those things.
So you can write a mail to us. I'll share my mail ID. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can write to us, and we can help you out in planning for the future.
Okay. Yeah. Do you mind sharing your email, and then I can send you an email?
Okay, it's in the chat section. I have shared my mail ID, for all other benefits also, all the parent benefits. So you can write us a mail, and probably we can take it forward from there.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think a last question we are taking: purchasing and property in the name of special child who is minor is a good option?
Not really, because end of the day, the child is still minor. So here the consideration of special child would come, later on. The child is minor. So it's like, buying a property in the name of minor. Now, it's only that if eventualities happen, then those properties won't be handled by the, minor, would be handled by the legal guardian. So from that point of view, I always feel that buying a property in name of the minor won't be such a good option. It's better to buy it on your name, because be it income tax or be any other benefit, it will be added to your income only. So I think from that point of view, better not to buy it when the child is minor.
Yes, thank you so much. Aditya Shah, you want to say something?
Oh, okay. There is one more
Yeah.
question coming.
Oh, okay. Uh, how about options in abroad about upbringing a special child with autism if we have a
Yes,
chance of relocating?
yes. Okay, Jitendra sir.
1 minute, Aditya, 1 minute. I'm just, I just answered this question. So it's basically the question what Banali asking is that from India, if you want to shift abroad for upbringing a child there, okay.
And today I need,
That's the question being asked.
yeah, I need to say something.
Yes.
Today I went to the bank, then I deposited a money, and
Yes.
today in 2 days I went for the bank to deposit it from 25,000, and I did SIP here with me and my father. Both are did in a HDFC bank. Then once I gone for the bank to give the check, give the slip, everything. Then I gave to my father. I gave to my father everything because it was so raining heavily. So I went for the bank. Then I gave the check. Okay.
Great. That's really great, Aditya.
Yeah, good job, Aditya.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, coming on Bernali question, see, relocation, to another country, every country has its own challenges. Okay, we hear from parents who are in US, and other countries also, they wants to come to India because they have their own challenges there. And largely what, happens is that though your child, gets an upbringing abroad, but it's a social circle with end of the day, where parents want to shift back to India. So even if you relocate, fine, you can get a lot of services different from India. Probably countries like US and others may be ahead, but every country has its own challenges. Okay, so you should accept that, and possibly you need to answer it that whether you are just going to for upbringing of your child, and what happens, how do you find a social circle there, because the question what after us is where the quite a few parents we have also discussed with, they want to relocate back to India because the social circle is not available abroad. So there is no harm in doing that, but I think you analyze it more deeply, of all the pros and cons of relocating, and then look at relocating, what are the services available, how the social circle will happen, will you plan to shift later back to India, things improve in India, because largely what the where this question is coming from, is the kind of environment you're getting in India, and probably thinking of that service is better in abroad, the lifestyle is better in abroad. But let me say you to this, that every country will have its own challenges. Okay, you need to accept that. And from that point of view, then okay, yeah, so Sachin, probably have relocated from USA to India. About, go ahead, Mr. Sachin. I think you can unmute and probably answer this question.
I mean, what you said is absolutely right, that every country has its positives and negatives. The way I see it is, and the other question is, other point you raised is, are you only relocating only for the child? And because, if we make our kids as the sole purpose of our life, I think it affects our own quality of life. So we have to balance those things. But in another way to put it is, the reason I had actually, after my son Shlok's birth, I had spent good 2.5 years talking to various parents in US. I was in Houston, Texas, and the conclusion I came down to is the social network in India is much better. The extended family network is much better for upbringing. If your child has any acute physical issues, then the medical competency in USA or any of the Western countries is much better. But if he just needs us, if he's doing all right in terms of his day-to-day work, then perhaps India or the places where there are social network are, I think, a bit better as a quality of life. That's all.
Great, thanks, Sachin. I think you have answered the question, rightly. And yes, the relocation should not be just because of the child. So if you're getting an option, maybe because of good working environment or good job, probably then it might be good.
Agree.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Sachin sir. I mean, great. Directly from the experienced person. Yeah, great.
Yes.
Okay. I think we can wrap up today's session here. We don't have any other questions. So it's a great session, sir, and
thank you.
a really eye opener for many of us. And with that, we will take a leave from here. And next, we will meet. Okay, let me get back. When
20
or 20. Yeah, I just changes. 21st of June, writing a letter of intent. Yes, many of.
Yes.
Okay. I'll just mute. Yeah, 21st. Let's meet on 21st, 6 o'clock, and writing a letter of intent. I mean, many a times we talked about this. So let's go in detail how to write a letter of intent in next session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you and good night, everyone.
Good night.